you. Who else could it be but your man Louie? Yeah.
Who else could it be but me, your man, Louie T? Welcome to Monday Night Football Overtime. Browns, Niners. That was a humbling ass whooping right there. And I'm not surprised by it, not one bit. I told you that this Browns team would take these types of lumps throughout the course of this season. They're a young football team with a first-year head coach and a bunch of moving parts. And so they're going to have weeks like they had last week where they go on the road, score 40 points, and look impressive. And then they're going to have games like this where they look like the polar opposite, score 3 points, can't get out of their own way, turnovers, penalties, mistakes, can't stop the run, that sort of thing. And you're going to not really know which team is which. And they're somewhere in between. And a wise man once told me, nothing's as good as it seems, nothing is as bad as it seems. Somewhere in between, reality falls. And that's what you're going to find. And that's why I said the Browns were going to be 8-8 this year. And it's all good. You know, they're still a talented football team, but these are the types of lumps you take when you're a young team and you just don't know and you're still trying to figure things out. You've got a first-year head coach. Somewhere in there has to be that veteran that stabilizes everything, and this team just doesn't have that. Okay, it would have been nice for Joe Thomas to still be on this team. Like, they don't have that guy. So when Odell Beckham Jr., shame on you, and you step to the old dirty Beckham. When he's the guy rallying the troops when you're getting your ass beat 21-3, when he's the guy summoning up everyone to rally to start playing better football, you have a problem. Okay, so yeah, this team is going to struggle at times this season, and at times they're going to jump up and bite some teams that we don't expect them to jump up and bite. But I can't say that I'm surprised. Now, on the 49ers side of things, this was a measuring stick of sorts. I really wanted to see what they were going to do in this particular game because, as I had mentioned earlier on one of my previous programs, this is by far and away the best team that they had faced. And you saw what they did to them. Totally dismantled the Cleveland Browns. Now, the Browns made mistakes that made it easy for the 49ers to blow them out in this game. But make no mistake about it, the 49ers still have a long way to go themselves, which should be scary to certain teams out there. Seattle, Los Angeles Rams. But they're still just scratching the surface, are the 49ers. Like, they had issues on special teams where they missed kicks. Antonio Callaway was wide open for a touchdown, okay? That was not a good throw by Baker, and that was a horrible attempt at a catch by Antonio Callaway that essentially turned into a pick. There were opportunities for the Browns in this football game, all right? And you got to give credit where credit is due. The 49ers forced the issue. Dick Sherman with a pick. I keep saying to myself, damn, we got the wrong old-ass corner, man. We got the wrong aging veteran corner that's lacking top-end speed but still can make plays. We got the wrong one out of the two. There was Jano and then there was Dick Sherman. And everybody wanted to write Dick Sherman off when he left Seattle. And remember, he negotiated his own deal in San Francisco and everybody said, bro, what are you doing? And he said, I know what I'm still capable of. And voila, this man is still out there playing quality ball. He looked good tonight. Yeah, he gave up some throws. But again, he wants to keep everything in front of him. But when you challenge him deep, that's when he usually makes you pay. He made them pay early in his ball game. King Eyes of the quarterback, underthrown football. He goes up, makes a play. That's what Dick Sherman does. He makes plays on the football. And so you look at that defense. We talked about this defense and what they're capable of when they're healthy, when you've got Boza, when you've got Ford, when you've got Buckner, when you've got Armstead, when you got all these guys, and Thomas, and I never really referenced Thomas, but when you got all those guys and then you sprinkle in a little Quan Alexander, it's a really aggressive, fun group to watch. A little bit of Fred Warner in there as well. Not the biggest Dre Greenlaw guy, but that's a fast, effective, physical defense that is aggressive And when they're hitting on all cylinders, you saw it early in this game. The Browns had no answer for that that pass rush, none whatsoever. And again, that was another thing with the Browns. Not to beat a dead horse, but I talked about their offensive line potentially being their undoing before the season even started. I said if you're going into the season with Greg Robinson as one of your starting offensive linemen as a tackle, that's a problem, okay? And the thing was, the Browns weren't being aggressive to try to solve this problem. They just felt like all the rest of our talent will overcome some of the shortcomings of our offensive line. No, as a wise woman once told me, that's not how this works. That's not how any of this works, okay? You can't just throw Greg Robinson out there and say, oh, we'll be fine. We got ODB and we got Juice and we got Chubb and we got Baker. We'll be fine. Don't worry about it. No, okay? Your offensive line stinks and you have a problem on your hands and you need to find a way to solve it, and they didn't. So they're going to pay for that as well. When they come up against teams that can get after the quarterback, the Ravens really don't do a good job of getting after the quarterback. And so they were able to exploit them, and they were able to run the football. Chubb went nuts, and he's a really good football player. He might be, pound for pound, the best player that the Browns have on that entire offense. And so when you look at back to San Francisco, though, right, we'll come back to the Browns. To the winners go the spoils. But back to San Francisco. That defense was hitting early, and I think that's probably going to be what carries this team. Defense and running game, because I think they still got a ways to go with Jimmy Garoppolo and all of the pieces that they've surrounded him with in the passing game. Look, you've got George Kittle, and I love Marquise Goodwin, but you don't know how long you're going to have Marquise Goodwin for before he goes down. He's one of those tightly wound athletes. Of course, he's an Olympic type of a sprinter. He's a guy that can run. So every now and again, you got to put those kinds of thoroughbreds in the shop to get tuned up. So at some point he's going to have a hammy. He's going to have an ankle. He's going to have something like that, or some kind of soft tissue injury where he's going to be out 2 to 4 weeks. And so who's going to step up? And I haven't seen that guy. I thought Deebo Samuel would hit the ground running. I thought he was polished and ready to go. I was wrong. And I think he's going to be a really good football player for them. I think, maybe towards the end of his rookie season, he'll start to come on. Next year is when I think he'll really start to produce for them. But he's not there yet. And then, you look at some of the other guys they got. I don't see anybody else out there that strikes fear into your heart after Goodwin and Kittle as skill players. Now, they've got talent out there. Again, I just talked about Deebo Samuel. They got the guy from Washington, Pettis. There's a number of guys that can hurt you. I actually like Bourne a lot. I've always liked him. He had a nice little shoe tops catch in this football game because Jimmy was inaccurate. Let's talk about Jimmy, speaking of which. Because this run game, I've always said, and as a Redskin fan, I've preached this over and over again to anybody that would listen. The Redskins made a catastrophic mistake when they ran off Mike Shanahan, because when they ran off Mike, they also chased off Kyle. And Kyle was going to be the successor in Washington when Mike was done. And Kyle was ready to lead an NFL offense to prominence. Wherever Kyle goes, great offense usually follows. And we already know the Shanahans run the football better than anybody in NFL history. You're not going to find a family tree that runs it better than the Shanahans. They just know how to run it. Now, I've always said that about Kyle. I've always said that Kyle, to me, I called him an offensive genius. He's one of those guys that just knows how to get it done. Knows how to run the football, knows how to go play action fake off of the run, knows how to scheme guys open. It's no coincidence that he's been in multiple different stops, whether you're talking Cleveland or Houston or Atlanta or now San Francisco, and good offense has followed him everywhere he's gone. It's not a coincidence. And so, they're going to be able to run it. But off of that run, you're going to get great looks. And I can't really stand Booger McFarland, but Booger said some really intriguing things tonight that rings true for me, which is, look, you're going to get guys running wide open. You're going to get some great looks because the run game is so effective in San Francisco. I think this is the second time this year they've run for over 200 yards in a game. They blazed Cincinnati in week number 2 up in Cincinnati, just ran roughshod over them. They did it again tonight, all over that Browns defense. they can run the football with the best of them in the league. It would shock me if they don't end up in the top 3 in rushing this season. And, you got all these teams out there that run the football. The Vikings run it really well. The Cowboys run it really, really well. The Bills, I think, are going to be a team that ends up with some really good rushing stats. But when it's all said and done, if San Francisco isn't in the top 3, possibly top 2, I'm going to be shocked because this is what they do. Week in, week out. Don't care who you are or how you stop the run. They're going to run the football. And you're going to get great looks off of the run. And Jimmy's got to be more accurate. I don't think Jimmy's terrible. I just don't think Jimmy's accurate. Guys are having to contort their bodies and go down low and go up high and stretch outside of their frame to catch the football when they're running wide open. Jimmy's got to be more accurate. And the crazy thing is, when he came from New England, that was the one thing that you were assured of. Is like, hey, look, man, I don't know how strong of an arm Jimmy has. I don't know if Jimmy can read NFL defenses or not. But one thing for sure, Jimmy's goddamn accurate. All right? And all of a sudden now, Jimmy's just inaccurate. And I need Jimmy to be more accurate. That throw that he had at the end of the ball game that should have been caught and probably would have been a touchdown had he caught it, that's more along the lines of what I need to see from him. That it was an outbreaking route to Marquise Goodwin on the 3rd down that was perfectly thrown. That's what I need to see more of from Jimmy. Not the ball to Michael Bourne that he had to go down on his shoe tops and catch, or the pass at the beginning of the game that Juszczyk had to dive for that he ended up dropping and it was incomplete. I need him to be more accurate. Marquise Goodwin is running a simple speed out, and that's an easy 5-yard completion that they're giving you to set up 3rd and 3, and you skip it damn near to the ground. I thought he got his hands under it. I thought it was a catch, but they ruled it incomplete. You can't do that. You got to be accurate with the football. But if he's able to clean that up, they've got some playmakers. They're going to run the football. They're going to be dangerous offensively because Kyle Shanahan's pulling the strings. And they got my guy back. I'm a huge Tevin Coleman fan. And I told the Falcons fans that they made a mistake, but they couldn't keep everybody. That's why they drafted Ito Smith. They knew they weren't going to be able to keep both Coleman and Freeman. They re-signed Freeman. I think they picked the wrong one. Every Falcons fan out there tells me that Freeman is the better of the two. And you're probably right, but I'm a Coleman guy. I've always said that, and I'm going to remain a Coleman guy. I've always said I'm an upright runner guy. I love the taller running backs, and he fits that mold. But I'm just a Tevin Coleman guy, and he fits Kyle Shanahan's offense to a T. I said that when they signed him, the most underrated signing of the offseason was Tevin Coleman going to San Francisco. He got injured early on or late in camp, and so it stopped him from being able to show what he was capable of. But you saw it tonight. This was his first game as a San Francisco 49er, and he looks right at home in Kyle Shanahan's offense. I knew he would fit like hand in glove. You add in Matt Breida, who they just find ways to get him involved. They try to bypass him. It seems like Matt Breida, I'm like, what does this guy have to do to get more touches? Because it seems like they wanted to put Jerick McKinnon in. They wanted to put Tevin Coleman in. They want to give everybody else but Matt Breida opportunities, and he keeps just making plays like, bruh, what do I have to do to get starting carries, to get the reps that these guys are supposed to be getting, but they keep getting injured, and I keep having to be the guy that rescues you when you're looking for someone to bail you out. Why not just give me these opportunities? And first play of the game, this dude rips off 88. And as soon as he got the rock and he got to the second level, and I saw Demarius Randall back there, I told my girl, I said, he's gone. And she looked up. She's like, no, he's got the angle. I said, trust me, he's gone. And he smoked him. She said, whoa, he's fast. I said, yeah, I told you. He's one of the fastest dudes in the league. He can fly. And you saw it on that play. Just absolutely smoked that entire defense. And he's fun to watch. He's fun to watch. Coleman's fun to watch. Mostert is fun to watch. All those guys are, and that's why I said the secret weapon would have been a perfect fit because Kyle would have used him in so many different ways, out of the backfield as a pass catcher, in reverses, you name it. He would have been doing all kinds of things with Jerick McKinnon, but unfortunately we won't get to see that again. But nonetheless, this offense has a chance to be dynamic if Jimmy G can get his shit together and be a little bit more accurate with the football, because guys are going to be running wide open. Teams are going to have to respect the run. They're going to have to dedicate that eighth defender to the box. And that's going to give you some one-on-one coverage outside with the likes of Pettis and Goodwin and all these guys that can run. Deebo Samuel, all these guys can run. And so you're going to have opportunities to stretch the field vertically. And then you got George Kittle, who is among the fastest tight ends in all of football, right behind Evan Ingram. And so he's another guy that if you get him out of space, he's a problem as well. So they've got the chance to be really dynamic offensively. And there are a bunch of guys that I didn't name, like Richie James and all these guys that can do things offensively. And then the defense, I think they've got a chance to be elite defensively. I still think they've got some ways to go. I worry about their secondary at times. I think there are some yards to be had against that secondary, but what's going to make it tough on teams is that you got to get past that front seven first. And so I think they can be run on a little bit. I think you can run on this 49ers defense, which is crazy with the guys that they have up front. But I think it's going to be tough to run on them consistently. You can pop a 15-yarder here and there. Chubb did it tonight. You know, he didn't have a bad game. 16 carries, 87 yards is not a bad night at the office for Nick Chubb. But the problem is what happens when on first down you run it, you get 1, second down you run it, you get -2. Now it's 3rd and 11. And now you got to throw it against this really vaunted pass rush. And God forbid they decide to send an extra defender or two like they did earlier in the night when Quan Alexander ran over Hilliard as the running back in pass pro, and all of a sudden D Ford is coming around and Bosa's at his legs and he's getting swarmed. God forbid they decide to send more rushers and guys blitzing. I mean, this defense is ferocious, man. I'm a huge Quan Alexander fan. I can't believe Tampa Bay allowed him to walk. I thought he was more or less the heart and soul of that defense, but they decided to move on from him, didn't want to pay him. They drafted Devin White. We'll see how that goes for them, but he's a perfect fit in this defense. This is a really, really talented, and I said it before the season started, really talented 49ers football team. There's a reason people are saying Super Bowl or bust. I'm not one in that camp because I haven't seen enough from Jimmy Garoppolo to feel like they're ready to take that step. But what they are ready to do is compete in this division, and I said they would do that. I did not think they would be able to stand toe-to-toe with the likes of Seattle and Los Angeles, but that's where they are right now. As a matter of fact, they're leading the division as we sit here in week number 5 going into week 6. They're sitting atop this division, and next week they got a massive showdown against the Rams in L.A., and that's one of those put the league on notice type games. A lot of people thought that this was that kind of game. No, this was a, hey, are you for real or not? Show me. Next week is, hey, are you really trying to win the division or what? And they've got a chance to go make a statement on the road against the Rams, who right now are struggling. 2 straight losses, still searching for an identity offensively. Are they going to run it with Gurley or not? Are they going to just turn it over to Goff? Defensively, they can't stop a nosebleed right now. They've got issues stopping the run. Well, you're getting one of the best rushing offenses in the league, and the 49ers coming to your place. And oh, by the way, they haven't been able to stop teams from throwing the football. And if Jimmy can get his act together, there'll be opportunities in the pass game as well. So that's an intriguing matchup. The Rams looking to make a statement themselves that, hey, this is cute what you're doing, but you know you don't run shit out here out west. And so slow your roll. You still got to pay the toll. Slow your roll. So they've got an opportunity to show them that they aren't there yet. And the 49ers have a chance to say, hey, we've arrived. So that's going to be interesting to see next week. But this was total domination tonight. And I'm not surprised by it at all because these are the Browns. And I talked about the Browns having issues up front along the offensive line. I talked about the Browns being a young football team. I talked about the Browns having a first-year head coach. I talked about the Browns having a lot of moving parts. You know, having a lot of guys from different teams and young guys coming in, and it's one big melting pot. And as I said, not a lot of veteran leadership on this football team. It's the blind leading the blind, a lot of young guys on this football team. So these are the types of things that are going to happen when you're a young team and you're trying to learn how to win. And they'll get better, and I expect them to get better, but it's going to be a little bit worse before it gets better, you know. So they may take another step back before they take a couple of steps forward. But this is a talented Browns team. As I said, you've seen this. You've seen flashes this season. Obviously, last week versus the Ravens on the road was very impressive. But more or less, they're the team in the middle of last week's performance and this week's performance. So We've seen good Browns, okay, last week against the Ravens. And we've seen bad Browns. First week of the season versus Tennessee, and now tonight. So somewhere in between is this Browns team, and they weren't very good tonight at all as the 49ers get the win 31-3 over the Cleveland Browns. Go to 4-0 on the season, remain perfect. They're the one team in the NFC that remains undefeated on the season. Meanwhile, the New England Patriots are the only undefeated team in the AFC. So, with that being said, let's get to your comments and see what you guys have to say. J Lock says, Kitchens needs to be fired. Straight up incompetence. Leaving Bosa one-on-one with bust Greg Robinson shouldn't be a growing pain. It's just ludicrous. All right, slow down. I know you're upset, and rightfully so. I felt the same way about Jay Gruden when he decided it was okay to match up Khalil Mack one-on-one against Morgan Moses or try to sift block him with the tight end coming across the formation. Really, it was supposed to be a double team. Vernon Davis whiffed, or Jeremy Sprinkle whiffed, and then Vernon Davis, because Sprinkle didn't get a piece of him, he came over and he was way too late to the party. But anyway, I just thought the plan was flawed from the jump. And you seem to feel the same way about the plan to block Bosa in this game, and you have every right to be upset, but not to the point where you're talking about being fired. Stop, okay? It's too early for that. Freddie is going to go and sit down, and I'm pretty sure that he had a plan, and it just wasn't executed properly. But then again, this is the same guy that thought it was okay to run a draw on 3rd and 7 against the Rams a couple of weeks ago, and just kind of said, that's my bad. So, again, the growing pains of having a first-year head coach. So, it is what it is. But I've got a super chat. Big Blue Rising, I greatly appreciate the super chat. Thank you so much. He says, what it do, Lou? Just want to know, how do you expect the Browns to respond in the next 4 weeks? Their schedule looks brutal as hell. So, I saw it on the screen. I don't remember actually what that schedule looks like, but I'm going to look it up really fast. And I know it had like Seattle and New England, and there were some tough teams in there. But we're going to go over their schedule really quickly. And so they've got Seattle at home next week. Then they have the Patriots after a bye week. Then they have the Broncos at Denver. And then they're home for Buffalo. That's the next 4 games. And then they're home for the Steelers. So I could see them beating Seattle. That's the Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde nature of this Browns football team. Is a game that you don't expect them to win. They show up, they show out, and they get a win. I could easily see them getting trounced in that football game. Either way, they're going to be much more competitive than they were in this game. But they're not beating the Patriots. Even though I think the Patriots aren't as good as everyone thinks. I think that 5-0 record is very misleading. They haven't played any good teams. They're going to go to 6-0 this week. They've got a Thursday night game against the Giants. They're going to win that football game as well. But you look at the combined record of the teams that they've played this year. Outside of Buffalo, I don't think they've played a team with a winning record this season, have the New England Patriots. The Steelers are 1-4. The Jets are winless. The Redskins are winless. And the Bills are the only other team that they've played. And again, the Bills are the one good team that they've played on their schedule thus far. But got to beat who they put in front of you. And they also wiped out the Dolphins. So, and that's a winless team as well. So I'm not overly impressed with the Patriots. And having just watched my team play them, we were going toe-to-toe with them in the first half of that game. I was unimpressed. I really was. If the Redskins were any good, they would have had a chance to win that football game. I don't think the Patriots are right now. And the defense, while it was good, I wasn't blown away by their defense either. So, everybody's making this defense out to be the 85 Bears. I'm not seeing it. I think they're good defensively. Don't get me wrong. They're not great. All right. There are opportunities to be had against the Patriots, both offensively and defensively. So I think you got a shot to show up, show out, and make that a competitive ball game. I just don't see you winning that football game. The Denver game is interesting because the Broncos easily could be 3-2 and probably should be 3-2 right now. Instead, they're 1-4. But they got to win. I'll see if that win kind of gives them the confidence that they need moving forward to actually be a competitive team and start winning some of these close ball games that they've been losing. That's an interesting game because your offensive line stinks and the Broncos can get after the quarterback. So that could be trouble for you in that football game. The Patriots lead the league in sacks right now, so that's not a great matchup for you. And the Seahawks can get after the quarterback. Again, not a great matchup for you there either. But again, I think you can run the football against some of these teams, so that's going to give you an opportunity, especially the Broncos. You can run the football on the Broncos, and you may be able to run it against Seattle as well. So, and then Buffalo, I don't like that matchup for you at all, even though it's at home. That's a scary matchup. The only thing that's in your favor is if you can get to Josh Allen, you can force him into some mistakes, and he will turn it over. So those are all interesting games. I see you probably coming out of that stretch at either 2-2 or 1-3. I don't see you going 3-1 in that stretch, but I do see you being able to get 2 out of these 4 games. You could get 3 out of the 4, but the one that you would have to get to jumpstart that would be Seattle. Okay, you would have to get the Seattle game because I don't think you're winning the Patriots game. If you don't get the Seattle game, there's a chance you can get the Denver and Buffalo game, but those are very, very losable games in their own right as well. Anyway, let's get back to the comment section and talk about this football game here. Cruising, thank you for the super chat. Really, really appreciate it, guys. Thank you so much. He says, what's more important to an offense in your opinion? My Giants need a starting left tackle and a number 1 wide receiver. I say left tackle. It's not even up for debate because as you saw tonight, doesn't matter how much talent you have. If your quarterback doesn't have any time to get the football off, then all that talent that you have is rendered useless. All right. Odell Beckham Jr. is a bona fide number 1 in this league. Jarvis Landry is a bona fide number 2. And they couldn't get those guys to football consistently tonight. Why? Because Baker Mayfield was under siege. Why? Because his left tackle stunk. So you got to have guys that can protect. We saw it last night in the game with the Chiefs. They got all those weapons out there. Patrick Mahomes is a magician, but he didn't have time. You know, guys were bearing down on him. Why? Because they were struggling along the offensive line, primarily at left tackle with Cameron Irving, who is not supposed to be your left tackle. All right, so left tackle to me, and I've had this debate before. I've said, look, what comes, first, the chicken or the egg? That's the whole chicken or the egg debate in terms of what's more important. Obviously, to me, quarterback by far and away, I don't think that's up for debate. The most important position in football. But then after that, is it the left tackle or is it the pass rusher? Which one comes next? Is it the chicken or the egg? It's like, again, it's the chicken or the egg debate. So receiver isn't way down the list, but it's not even close when you're talking left tackle. It's not in the category of left tackle quarterback. So yes, you definitely need a left tackle for sure. Storm says Browns way too inconsistent. Baker will need to eat some humble pie after Cleveland's start. I know the Browns are talented, but it still amazed me that people were picking them for the Super Bowl. Again, I tried to warn everybody in the preseason, as we started to rev up and we did the predictions for this season, and I said, you guys are drinking the Browns brews, and I told you don't drink the Browns brews. All right, you'll get poisoning. Don't do it. Just like years ago, I said don't drink the Jags juice, and again, I tried to warn you guys up front that this wasn't a good idea, but I'm a professional football watcher. This is what I do. I've seen talented teams like this before, but they were assembled in one offseason, and you just don't win that way in this league. You just don't. Especially with a young quarterback, it just doesn't happen. You got to take your lumps, So, Gregory Lightbody says, if Bruce don't get on the phone and ask for one, and that's the thing is, Bruce, you heard the interview. I played it for you today. He said he's not even entertaining offers right now. It's ridiculous. Chuck Sharp says, once again, Booger McFarland talking about the Redskins in a game where the Redskins aren't even playing. I know. But obviously there was context to it. They were previewing SVP's show, the Sports Center And, his one big thing is going to be on the Redskins with the Jay Gruden situation. And so that's what brought it up. But nonetheless, Gregory Lightbody says, Nick Bosa got me thinking to spend the Skins pick on Chase Young. I told you, a dominant edge rusher can change the game for your franchise. It's really simple. You look at what the Browns have with their edge rusher, and he's a dominant force for them. You look at Bosa, both Bosas, Joey and Nick, both of those guys are dominant in their own right. Von Miller and what he's done for the Broncos. You get one of these guys, a Myles Garrett, a Von Miller, a Nick Bosa, a Joey Bosa. These guys move the needle. They change the game. J.J. Watt changes the game. They change how defenses have to protect. Khalil Mack, they're difference makers. They wreck game plans. And we just don't have that. And that's why I said, those are guys that are definitely worth a top 5 pick. 32J Lock says, do me a favor, Louie. Any idea to help Baker? He's regressed so much over the course of a year. The problem with Baker is that he assumed the role of leader, and now he's trying to do too much. And the worst part is that he doesn't have to do it. Last year, he had much less talent around him, and he was doing a lot less because he was a rookie, and he was allowing the game to come to him instead of him trying to force the issue. This year, he's assumed the role of leader. He's been very vocal. He's been getting into spats with people in the media, and he's been dogging out his own teammates at times. And so he's assumed this role as team leader. And when you do that, you now have to step to the forefront and take ownership of the entire team. And your play has to set the example. And he hasn't done that, and he's putting undue pressure on himself to do that. Instead of him allowing this dominant run game to really facilitate this offense, and then he feed off of that, he's trying to go above and beyond the call of duty, and he's really making too many mistakes. This offense is good enough with just running the football and him taking what the defense is giving him. If he just does that, they're going to make plays because they're too explosive. A 5-yard slant with this offense can turn into a 55-yard touchdown. Those are the types of playmakers that they have. But yet, he wants to go out of his way to scramble in the pocket and try to make things happen. And again, I don't want to put it all on Baker because this offensive line isn't very good. And so some of it is on him. Some of it is on this offensive line. But what he has to do is trust in the run game to take the pressure off of him and just take what the defense is giving him. He's being greedy. He's trying to push the football down the field instead of taking the underneath throws, staying ahead of the sticks and down in distance. He wants the home run all the time. That pick to Dick Sherman, no excuse for that. That it wasn't there. It was a bad decision. It was a bad throw. I guarantee you if you watch the all 22s, and I haven't, but I guarantee you there was something open underneath or he could have tucked it and ran. But instead he wanted to make the big play, and that's the difference between last year and this year. Last year he was making plays, and he was trying some things, but he also was playing more within the scheme last year. So I just think it's a case of a guy just simply trying to do too much, and also trying to do too much behind a very faulty offensive line. DMV fan 123 says, and imagine draft nicks are already saying Chase Young is a better prospect than both Bozas. I got to be able to identify that for myself. I just know that the Bozas came in with the best hand usage I have ever seen of any prospect coming into the draft from the college ranks. You just don't see guys using their hands like a 7 to 10 year vet in the league as rookies. It's very rare. You saw it tonight with Nick's hands and how he was able to defeat the tackle right away with just hand usage alone. Captain Spartan 04 says, just saying, Steelers losses are 49ers, Seahawks, Patriots, Ravens, and they're leading the AFC North. He says, we're not 1-4 because we're slouches. We've just been playing top teams. Yeah, and you've got a quarterback issue because you don't have your guy. So I understand your plight. I'm not knocking your Steelers, but it's going to be tough to dig yourself out of a 1-4 hole. You had a great opportunity, and if Mason Rudolph didn't get hurt, I think you might actually beat the Ravens, and you would have been right there for first place. As crazy as that would have sounded, at 2-3, you would have been right there in first place. But instead, the Ravens get the win. They're 3-2, and they lead the division. Colts fan says, "What did I tell you, Lou? These Niners are the real deal. I believe they have the legit chance of going to Los Angeles and winning next week." You're not wrong. And I told you, I believe in this 49ers team. I said I wanted to see them play against the Browns and see what they would be able to do. But we know they can run the football. You know how I feel about Kyle Shanahan. You know how I feel about that defense. So I was right there with you. I didn't know if they were capable of winning 10 games before the season started. I needed to see it in action. But I told you I thought they were going to be competitive and they were going to have a shot to compete this year. I just thought they were maybe a year away. But this collection of talent that they have, with the way that they're playing defense, with the way they're running the football, you could be staring at a 10-win football team. Will 10 wins be enough to win that division? With the way it started off, with the the Seahawks being 4-1 and playing good ball, and the Rams, yeah, they're 3-2, but they're still the Rams. I don't know if 10 will be enough to win that division, but they'll be right in the mix. That's what it seems like right now. Still early, but it seems like they're going to be in the mix. And you did say that for sure. Colts fan says, "Lou, thank goodness Juszczyk only has a knee sprain. The Niners offense would be lost without him. He's such an integral part of what they do." And that even went back to his Ravens days. He's just a big part of an offense because he's a Swiss Army knife. He can catch it. He can run it. You can throw it to him. He's a great lead blocker. He just does everything for an offense. So hopefully it is nothing more than just a knee sprain. Reese says, "I can't believe I missed your your squad. I forgot all about it." Man, you can't be falling asleep behind the wheel, Ree. Okay, and I was expecting you to be one of my phone calls because when I started the series, it was with people like you in mind. All right, you want to always talk Bucks football, and I'm all for it. I'm here for it. I just got to make sure that we have a platform set aside for people like yourself to chop it up and talk about your team. And you were a no-show. I was disappointed. Reese says, "What did you think of the officiating in the game?" You missed it, but I will grant you this. I thought it was below average. It was subpar. I hated the ejection of the corner out of Auburn. I thought that was yes, it was helmet to helmet. Did he deserve to be ejected from the game? No, I didn't think so. I also thought that that was a fumble that the Saints had on the return. They called that that wasn't a fumble. But the football gods righted that wrong. You got a pick six not too long thereafter, or a pick that set up a touchdown. So it was all a wash there. But I wasn't a fan of the officiating of the game. No, I wasn't. Guy says, "Do you think your team will start trading away assets?" No, I don't. We're not good enough of an organization to see that we're in a total rebuild and actually start acquiring assets. No. So let's see. Reese says, "Who on your personal wish list for the Redskins head coach?" Right now, I honestly don't have a wish list. I want to see what this team is moving forward, and specifically what Dwayne Haskins is, because if I see it from Haskins and I feel confident in his abilities, then I want to hire an offensive-minded head coach. And I know Redskins fans may not want to hear that because that's what we've done in the Daniel Snyder era. We haven't hired one single defensive-minded coach since he's gotten here. The one guy that he inherited was Marty Schottenheimer. He hired Norv Turner. He inherited Norv Turner. He then fired him, and then he got Marty. Didn't have enough fun with Marty. Got rid of Marty when Marty was trying to turn things around. And then from that point forward, it's been all offensive-minded coaches: Spurrier, Joe Gibbs, Jim Zorn, Shanahan, and then Jay Gruden. So I know a lot of Redskins fans want a breath of fresh air and want to go defensive-minded coach with the defensive talent that we have. However, You stunt the growth of your quarterback if you Jason Campbell him by having a new coordinator every single year for him. And that could happen depending on how successful your coordinator is. You can get a head coaching job, and now you got to learn from another guy. You normally like to keep it in-house and just promote the quarterback's coach, or the offensive line coach or somebody like that, so that the terminology just doesn't change and you kind of keep everything intact. But that's not always the case. So right now I don't have one. I don't have a personal wish list. But you asked me that same question, 6 weeks from now, and I might have a whole list compiled for you as to who I think the Redskins should hire. I think right now, I want to see what Kevin O'Connell does with this offense, because that's who I'm leaning towards. A guy that's already been in the building, a guy that knows what these guys are capable of, has seen what hasn't worked, and maybe has an idea of what will work moving forward. But maybe we just need a breath of fresh air, somebody from the outside to come in and turn this thing around. I don't know. Anyway, Reese says, isn't it crazy that Bill Callahan succeeded both Grudens as head coach? Yeah, it is, but it isn't at the same time, because, this NFL thing, it's a fraternity. And you're going to usually keep the same guys around you. And so Callahan, while he wasn't with John in Tampa, he was hired after he was fired in Tampa. It's not coincidental that Jay ends up getting a recommendation to hire Bill away from the Cowboys, and he was on the staff. So it is what it is. Hell Venom wants a shout out. Shout out to Hell Venom. All right. There you go. Got to use the hashtag Louie T Live if you want me to read your comment. But I wasn't ignoring you. I don't pay attention to any comments that don't have the hashtag. I just skim over all of them. So you have to make sure that you're using the hashtag if you want your comment to be read for future references. So that's going to do it for Monday Night Football overtime. 49ers dominant over the Cleveland Browns 31-3. Niners stay unbeaten on the season at 4-0 with this ass whooping of the Browns. Meanwhile, the Browns were in total disarray from the opening possession of this game. They dropped to 2-3 on the season. They're going to be just fine. They're going to be a quality football team, but not the likes of what everyone was talking about before the season started. People were crowning them as the AFC North champions, and that may still happen. I mean, that division is wide ass open, but everybody was crowning them as a 10, 11, hell, even 12-win team. My man Sean Mack, who's a massive Browns fan, said they were going to be 12-4 this year, and I'm like, dude, you are absolutely out of your mind if you think they're going to be a 12-4 team. They've got 12-4 talent, but they don't have the cohesiveness of a 12-4 outfit. You got a first-year coach. You got a first-year quarterback, essentially, as the crowned starter going into the season. Remember, he started out on the bench last year, but this is his team now. This is the first year. This is his team. And then you got a bunch of moving parts, guys that you just added. Odell Beckham, and there's a lot of shuffling of the secondary. They've had some injuries there as well. Olivier Vernon comes in. You trade Kevin Zeitler. You got a mess on the offensive line. It's just too many moving parts for these guys to just jump in and win 12 games and be dominant in the AFC. Maybe they're a year or two away from that, though. That could be on the horizon, but it won't happen in 2019. And there'll be more games like the one we saw tonight. So, in any event, I'm your man, Louie T, signing off. I thank you guys for joining me. Remember, if it's not your man T, it's not the best NFL coverage. It could be. I thank you guys for joining me. Thank you for all of the super chats tonight. I greatly appreciate those. Keep them coming. Thank you so much for your support. Thank you for joining me tonight. And as always, I will see you guys next time. I will leave you with this promo. Have a good one. What's going on, fam? It's your man, Louie T here. Check this out. If you play daily fantasy on FanDuel or DraftKings, make sure you sign up to DraftDime.com. They offer some of the best projections in the industry, along with one of the most advanced lineup optimization tools to not only get you in the game, but to help you dominate. They also offer a fantasy football draft kit to help you dominate your buddies during your season-long leagues. So, what are you waiting on? It's never too late to get in the game. Get over to draftdime.com and sign up. And remember to use the coupon code Louie. That's Louie, Louie, for 10% off. The link is in the description. And don't forget to tell them that me, your man, Louie T, sent you.